Sticking with the pack versus speaking my truth. Somewhere along the way, I found myself in the middle of a girl gang of friends, with no real recollection of how I arrived there. They were much prettier and taller than me. Some played other sports, some dated boys, but somehow we all seemed to get along. Never in a million years would I have pegged myself as a member of this friend group. However, the version of me that I was at home was different. It was almost as if I was living this double life. At home, I loved to write. I made scrapbooks and journals and was obsessed with collecting quotes on the philosophy of life and love. To this day, I still have all of my old journals and diaries full of my favorite quotes and the sagas of my early crushes. When I sat on my bed and put pen to paper, it was like I was transformed into another dimension. It was as if I could jot down every lesson and experience from those before me and create my own perfect version of reality. I tried to share these theories with my classmates and other kids in my neighborhood, but the girls were more interested in giggling at boys, and the boys were more interested in showing off for the giggling girls. It all felt so juvenile to me, for I had already experienced and gotten past my boy-crazy days in elementary school. One of my favorite pastimes, when alone in my room, was to read my favorite astronomy book. I had this one that I would reread over and over again, almost as if I was trying to memorize its contents. I already knew I was going to be a professional soccer player when I grew up, but my favorite career option was to be an astronomer. I knew I was smart enough to have a comet named after me one day, so I kept reading my astronomy book over and over. One of my favorite memories with the girl gang was a giant slumber party we had on the deck of my parents' house above the garage. We were laying out in our sleeping bags and giggling amongst the stars. In full transparency, I planned the whole idea for my birthday sleepover because I was too afraid to sleep outside all alone. I didn't care about the birthday party. I just cared about sleeping outside amongst the stars. As the girls giggled, I laid on my back and stared at the skies, dreaming of visiting the life that I knew was somewhere up there above me. None of the other girls believed me when I shared my dreams of wanting to become an astronomer, so I just kept it to myself and let them gossip about who had just broken up and which boys were now available. After my night amongst the stars, I took my astronomy studies much more seriously. I started taking notes as I reread my astronomy book, which quickly turned into practically just rewriting the thing cover to cover. It didn't matter to me how I absorbed the information. I just knew it was the most important book I needed to know about. I wouldn't have put it past myself to sleep with it under my pillow to absorb the information by osmosis in my sleep. One night, I woke up out of a dead sleep to see a creature sitting on the shelf of my bedroom closet. It was not a stuffed animal or anything that I had ever seen before. It was very much alive, and I was not asleep. I sat up in bed and pulled the covers up to the bottom of my eyes. Softly blinking my eyes open again, I saw the thing still sitting there. It was propped up in the closet with its knees to its chest. It had long, bumpy fingers and a spooky-looking face. It didn't have any hair, and it didn't stay long enough to speak. Watching this thing blink and look back at me, I spooked and pulled my blanket up over my eyes. By the time I was brave enough to emerge from the covers, he was gone. Clear that my friends didn't even understand my astronomy book. I was definitely not going to try to explain the creature I had seen on the shelf in my closet. I never told a soul. Then it happened again. I woke again from a dead sleep, in the middle of the night, in the same bedroom to find the exact creature sitting on the shelf in my closet. As he sat with his knees tucked to his chest, I instantly knew it was him again. I caught myself gazing at him until he blinked his eyes, and I was too frightened to look any further. I tightly closed my eyes and said, "Go away, go away, go away." I can still see him clear as day, sitting there in my childhood bedroom, knees tucked, fingers wrapped around the shelf's edge, the other hand draped over his knees. When I see him in my mind's eye today, he doesn't frighten me the same way because I can see so clearly that he wanted to speak to me. It was like he was waiting for me to initiate an invitation to speak. And each time that he arrived, I was frightened just before he would open his mouth. It's almost like I can watch the experience from the third person, and he didn't give the impression that he was dark or demonic. I was understandably frightened as a young girl experiencing an unknown creature in her bedroom, but looking at him today, he doesn't have the vibe that says he was there to harm me. I feel like he was just trying to speak to me. I tried to explain him to my parents, but of course, they told me it was just a dream and there was no creature in my closet. They told me I have a vivid imagination and that one day it would come in handy. From that day forward, my dreams became even more vivid. Sometimes able to remember them when I awoke, I would snooze my alarm and drop back into the dream. My dream space felt creative and safe, but the creature in my closet scared me too much, so I never slept with the closet door open again. To the best of my knowledge, he never returned to visit me. However, Closing the closet door before turning off my light at night became my first obsessive compulsive behavior, one that would take conscious unwinding well into adulthood. After that experience, I set down my astronomy book and did my best to focus on my good girl training. At the time, that training was heavily influenced by soccer and giggling over boys. Come to find out, these boy crazy experiences are incredibly heightened after a young girl gets her first period. This happened much sooner for my girlfriends than it did for me. I was late into 8th grade before I understood what this insatiable obsession with boys was all about.